Richard, have you had any experiences in your life which you think have really helped you within your role at Continuum and what you're doing and helping others? Because we have quite a few, I mean, I've got a couple of solicitors actually in the health director at the moment who, for example, are going through divorce themselves. One of them has said that she actually can't deal with it herself. She's had to get another family solicitor to deal with her own divorce, and that's what she does for a living. So it's really, I mean, this is what brought me to the group hug as well, my own experiences of what helped me to have the idea to set this up. So is there anything that you'd like to share with us that maybe you've been through in your life?
When I was a young lad, a young boy, growing up in South Bristol, my parents went through a divorce, and it was a difficult time. It was. I can't remember the ins and outs of it. You know, I was 8 or 9, but I do remember it being a very stressful time, and I do know that it led to difficulties for both of my parents after that, financially, mentally, so on and so forth. So that has been put behind us now. That was 32 years ago, and we've all put it behind us and moved on. And I just know that from my experience, how a child would feel going through a divorce with parents not exactly negotiating. I think that's the best way of putting it. They weren't negotiating very well, and it does cause a lot of stress. And for me, I ended up moving to a new area. So I was in South Bristol. I ended up heading to North Somerset, new school. Had to make new friends, and this was in between me. The move occurred in between me moving from my junior primary school through to my senior school. So I was moving into big school, as they say, and having to make a whole new set of friends, and that was difficult for me. And I think when I speak with people, and I know people that relationships might be on the edge. And I have helped clients on a professional capacity. I always try to say to my clients, you know, whatever you do, you need to keep in mind that those children are your children are going to go through this with you. The less stressful you can make it for yourself, the less stressful you make it for your children, and you know, the better the outcome for the children will be. It's difficult, and I know there can be many different circumstances leading to divorce, but I think make sure that you try to keep any frustrations and emotions, try to keep them as far away from the children as possible, and certainly try not to get into very deep, strong conversations in front of the children.
Yeah, the thing is, 32 years ago for your parents, I mean, it wasn't as common, I suppose, and also there wasn't all the topics around mediation and trying to be amicable. People were sort of expected to get a divorce and it'd be horrible. You know, it wasn't all this talk about mediating and everything. So it must have been really hard for them to know what to do. And there wasn't, you know, the internet. You probably just kind of went off to a solicitor and they dealt with it. So it's very different times. So they must have found it really hard as well. You know, just getting the information and knowing what on earth was going on.
Yeah, and it can be a very uncertain time, and people don't like uncertainty, and that's what I try to certainly put across to my clients and people I help and friends when I speak to them is there will be uncertainty. The best thing you can do is, you know, focus on what I said before. Focus on what you can control and what matters. The other bits will sort themselves out when it's the right time, when the rest of it's done. And if you can do that, then you'll quickly start removing the uncertainties, and you'll know where you stand. And you know, if it looks like a relationship's falling, that is going to end or come to a close, then head on. If you try to brush it under the carpet, unfortunately, it can make things difficult. And without going too much technicality, you know, there's tax planning issues that can become a real problem if you defer things until it's too late. So yeah, that's, I'd say, is a very relevant experience. And how I got into financial planning actually is an interesting one. My family are full of problem solvers. So my granddad was a director at an engineering firm. My dad is or was, sorry, an engineer at British Aerospace all those years back. He went through the redundancies like many did in Bristol. He was a quality engineer, so he was making sure that the airframes coming out of production met the standard, the measurements were correct. You don't want a plane which got measurements all over the place, because that's not going to fly very well. So he did corrections and make sure. So we've all got a puzzle solving brain, and I actually went into engineering as a young child, and I was made redundant just after the 9/11 attacks, when markets just went development, and it was a terrible time. So I was redundant and unemployed for about 3 months, and I had to get some work. As much as I could go and stack shelves, which I did do for a couple of months. It wasn't for me. It didn't test my brain enough. So I went into an admin role at a major insurance company. Quite quickly, I became a customer relations officer. So it's all about dealing with complaints and correcting, finding solutions.
Yeah.
And I was seeing the nature of some of these complaints, and it's like, well, there's got to be a better way of doing this, because complaints weren't necessarily against the company I was working for, but that's where the complaints were coming. And it was actually because the process had fallen down at the point of sale, which was by I won't say the word, well, I'll have to say the word, but by advisors or brokers that weren't doing things the right way and keeping the client informed. So those complaints would come to us, and we'd have to, sometimes honestly we had made a mistake, but other times it's like, well, you really need to be speaking to your advisor. And yeah, from that experience, my granddad one day came to me and said, "You work in finance, don't you?" And I said, "Yeah." He said, "I've got this complaint." And it was at that moment that obviously, when it starts happening to family, it just took me to a place where this is not on. And it was an endowment. So we all know about the endowments, the mis-selling, and what we went through to get my granddad some compensation and to get a result for him. Ultimately, I decided to get my head down. I pushed to get my qualifications, became a qualified advisor in, well, that was about 2005. So I've been doing this about 16, 17 years now. And yeah, I just pushed myself, became chartered, I didn't want to be just a person that gives financial advice. I wanted to understand issues properly, in depth. And yeah, it led me to eventually setting my own business up last year, partnering Continuum. And that's a great partnership, because I don't have to do the FCA and reporting to the authorities. I speak with my clients, I deal with my clients, and I work with them and speak with them rather than filling out spreadsheets.
Yeah, brilliant. And with all your past experiences as well, it's really nice to see that so many financial advisors and planners, I think, seemed quite stuffy a few years ago, and now they're maybe COVID's helped as well. People are just more human, and there's a lot of coaching going on within financial planning as well. And it isn't, like you say, just someone turning up with a briefcase these days, is it? It is about life and people understanding people's lives and what they're going through, what they might go through, and planning around that and having that financial future. Yeah.
I say I'm a life-centered financial planner. I don't try to fit people to products. No. It's all about the people, and the products and solutions are just a tool in the bag. They're just something that can be used to get to people where they want to be, to get people to achieve their goals. And it goes back to this habit thing as well. Don't just do it once and then forget about it for 6 years, 7 years. You need to sort out a plan. You need to motivate yourself to stick to that plan. And that's where I can be a little thorn in people's side and say, you know, this is the plan. This is what you need to do to achieve the plan. If you stick to this plan, you will succeed.
Yeah.
And sometimes you just have to remind people, well, we said if at the end of the year you've done all right, we're going to put a lump sum here, because that's going to be, oh yeah, but I want a holiday. But okay, do you want a holiday in retirement?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, well, thanks so much for speaking to us, and all your contact information in the hub directory is going to be below this video. So thanks, Richard, and we'll speak to you again soon.
Brilliant. Thank you, Alison.
Thank you.